You know that feeling when everything is perfect? Like, genuinely, completely, nothing is wrong perfect? That is exactly where this family is at the start of this movie. Middle of the Caribbean Sea. Private yacht. Sun hitting the water just right. The kind of trip that costs more money than most people see in a year. And they are all there together, laughing, relaxed, not a single thing to worry about. And then the ocean tries to swallow one of them alive. Just like that. No warning. No build-up. 1 second everything is fine, and the next, a mother is being dragged into the dark water and nobody on that boat even knows she is gone. That is the kind of movie this is. And trust me, what happens after that moment? It makes that opening scene feel like a vacation. At the beginning of the movie, we are introduced to a pretty normal family. Dad's name is Tom. He is the kind of father who does not just say he loves his family. He charters a yacht in the middle of the Caribbean to prove it. His wife Julia is calm, capable, the kind of woman who looks completely at home near the ocean. Their teenage daughter Cassie, headphones on, checked out, doing exactly what every teenager does on a family trip. And then there is Ben, the youngest, celebrating his birthday today in the middle of the sea. The mood on deck is genuinely good. Tom and Ben are competing over fishing rods, arguing over who is going to catch the bigger fish. Cassie is stretched out in the sun, completely in her own world. And Julia, feeling the afternoon heat, quietly slips over the side of the yacht for a swim. For a few minutes, everything is completely normal. She floats on her back. Watches the sky. Completely at peace. And then something moves beneath her. Not a wave. Not a fish. A deep, heavy vibration. Like something enormous shifting in the darkness directly below her feet. She snaps upright. Looks around. Nothing. Not a shadow. Not a fin. Nothing. She tells herself it was probably just a current. Takes a breath. Starts swimming back toward the boat. It happens again. Only this time, 3 times stronger. The surface of the water is completely flat. Completely peaceful. But in the deep black water beneath her, something is there. And every instinct she has is telling her to get out. Now. She rolls onto her stomach and starts paddling hard. And something grabs her ankle and yanks her straight down. She screams. She fights. She claws at the water with everything she has. But sound does not travel through open ocean the way we think it does. And up on that deck, Cassie cannot hear a thing through her headphones. Tom and Ben are celebrating because they just caught a fish. Nobody knows. Nobody knows she is down there. Water is filling her throat. She is being pulled further and further from the boat. And just when it seems like this movie is going to end before it even begins, Tom hears something. A faint, broken sound carried across the water. He goes still. Turns around. And through the glare of the afternoon sun, he sees his wife's hands breaking the surface. He does not think. He dives. Swims harder than he has ever swum. Reaches Julia just as her arms stop fighting and pulls her head above the water. Ben gets the engine running and brings the yacht around. Cassie rips off her headphones and runs to the edge. Together they drag both of them back onto the deck. Julia is alive. But as she lies there on the deck catching her breath, the ocean around them does not look the same as it did an hour ago. The color is slightly different. The waves are moving in patterns that do not match the wind. And there is a sound, very low, almost below hearing, vibrating up through the hull of the boat. Tom sets one rule for the rest of the trip. Nobody goes in the water alone. Full stop. Cassie sits in the corner and says nothing. She had her headphones on. She knows what that means. To hold the evening together, Tom reminds them it is still Ben's birthday. They cut the cake. They sing. Real laughter comes back, not forced, actually real. And for a little while, it feels like maybe the worst is behind them. It is not. Later that night, Cassie gets a video call from her boyfriend back home. She grabs the laptop and steps outside for some privacy. The moment his face fills that screen, her smile disappears completely. Behind him, the sky looks apocalyptic. Massive black clouds rolling over the city. Lightning flashing in a color that is not quite white, more green. He is speaking fast, voice tight, barely controlled. News stations have gone off air. The government is announcing something they have never announced before. Some kind of global atmospheric event. And as he talks, the wind behind him starts tearing things apart. Cassie tries to ask questions. The screen freezes. His face locks mid-expression, pure terror, and then the connection cuts completely. She runs inside and tells her family everything. Tom tries to stay calm about it. They are far from land. Signals are weak. Tropical weather happens. Completely rational explanation. And then the sound starts outside. Not thunder. Not wind. Something else. A deep, collective groan rising from the dark water around the yacht. They run to the deck and shine their lights into the ocean, and what they find stops every single one of them cold. Hundreds of whales. Moving in a tight, panicked formation, bodies crashing into each other, swimming at a speed that does not look natural. They are not migrating. They are fleeing. Tom watches them and his voice drops to almost nothing. He explains it quietly, whales navigate using the Earth's magnetic field. They feel disturbances in the planet itself before humans have any instruments to detect them. For a pod this size to be in this kind of blind, total panic. Something has broken inside the world. And then the yacht gets hit from below. Hard. The impact tilts the entire vessel at a sharp angle. Plates shatter. Equipment slides. Ben goes flying across the deck and hits hard. Tom grabs a diving mask, ties a rope around his waist, ignores every word Julia says, and goes over the side into the pitch-black water. When he comes back up, his shoulder is torn open. His face is white. He did not hit a reef. He did not hit a whale. He says, barely above a whisper, that something was moving down there. Something so large that the water it displaced nearly tore him apart before he could surface. Engine system, destroyed. Radio, dead. Every phone, no service. They are completely alone in the middle of the ocean with no way to call for help and something massive living directly beneath them. Then the sky catches fire. Streaks of burning light tear down through the upper atmosphere, crashing into the ocean in massive columns of flame and steam. Ben calls them meteors. Tom watches one hit close enough to shake the hull. And then, something clicks in his mind. He turns to Julia. Those are not meteors. Those are satellites. If the global satellite network is falling out of the sky, then whatever destroyed it already happened. On land. Where everyone they know is living. The engine completely melts down. The storm goes from a breeze to a full hurricane in under 2 minutes. They seal the cabin. Nobody notices the compass on the dashboard spinning in circles, every direction collapsing at once. Julia's nose starts bleeding from no impact. Cassie is suddenly sick with a fever that came from nowhere. Ben hits his head hard when the yacht pitches sideways. The atmosphere itself is doing something to them. Tom fires a flare through the roof hatch. A last desperate reach for help. 1 second of perfect silence follows. And then the impact hits. When they open their eyes, the world they went to sleep in no longer exists. Tom sits up first. The yacht is completely still. No rocking. No sound of water. He looks through a tear in the hull wall and what he sees does not compute. He gets the family outside. The Caribbean Sea is gone. Not lower. Not rough. Gone. In every direction, dry, cracked earth stretching all the way to the horizon. The ocean floor, completely exposed. Dead sea creatures scattered across the mud. Trenches cutting through the ground like open wounds. Rock formations rising like mountains where nothing existed yesterday. Their yacht is sitting on land. Cassie checks her phone, no signal. Ben steps off the ladder and his shoes sink into the wet mud. He stares at 2 massive dead crabs in a dried puddle and cannot find a single thought to put with what he is seeing. Tom gets the compass. The needle is stable. But north and south have switched positions. He gathers his family and explains it quietly. A geomagnetic pole reversal. The planet's core shifted, violently, suddenly, and the magnetic forces realigned with enough energy to physically displace entire oceans across the globe. And then he tells them what that means for the land. The places where people lived, the cities, the countries, the billions of lives going on while they were out here on this yacht, those places are now buried under miles of water. Cassie does not say anything at first. Then she thinks about her boyfriend. His face frozen on that screen. The green lightning behind him. And she breaks. She locks herself in the cabin. And for the first time in this whole movie, the silence outside is somehow louder than anything that came before it. With that reality settled in, they focus on what they can control. Supplies are nearly gone. Water especially. If they stay on this dry seabed they will not last more than a few days. Julia and Tom take inventory and do not say out loud how bad it is. Ben, because he is still a child and children find a way to hope, writes a note, ties it to his birthday balloon, and releases it into the hot still air. He watches it drift upward and does not look away until it disappears. Tom gets on the emergency radio and starts scanning manually. Static. Hour after hour of static. And then, a voice. His name is Captain Nav, commander of a military submarine, now stranded on the dry seabed miles away from their position. He confirms the pole reversal. Confirms the blackout. And in 2 days of scanning, 0 other survivors detected. Then he tells them the part that matters most. In approximately 1 week, the poles will snap back. And every drop of that displaced ocean is coming home, not as a tide, not gradually, as a wall of water moving at catastrophic speed. Anyone left on low ground when it arrives will not survive it. Nav also says his submarine survival capsule holds exactly 3 people. His crew are dead. He is alone. Tom and Julia look at each other. No words. Just a look. The kind that only happens between 2 people who have spent years building something together. They get on the radio and they beg. Not for themselves. For Cassie and Ben. Nav listens. Then he transmits coordinates. 2 to 3 days on foot across terrain none of them have ever seen. Tom tells the family to rest, eat what they have, and be ready before sunrise. Tomorrow, Real's survival begins. Morning comes. They are packing when Tom spots a figure moving across the mud flats. A man. Limping badly. Harpoon in hand. A large dog barking at his side. Tom's first instinct is, help him. Because that is who Tom is. He steps down, hands raised, offers a water bottle. The man takes it. Drinks. Then smashes it across Tom's face. What follows is fast and brutal and over before any of them can process what is happening. The harpoon goes into Tom's stomach. Julia is already screaming from the deck. By the time she reaches the ladder, the knife is already out. Tom is gone in seconds. Just like that. The man who organized this whole trip to make his son's birthday special. Gone in seconds on a dry patch of ocean floor. The killer turns toward Julia. Fires the harpoon. It catches her shoulder. She does not stop. She gets the children into a locked cabin with the flare gun, hides herself in the bathroom with nothing but a small kitchen knife, and waits. The man breaks into the yacht. Tears through their food like an animal. Then begins hunting, room by room, slow and methodical, heavy boots echoing on the floorboards. Julia slips through a ventilation gap in the wall. His dog finds her immediately. She kills the dog. The man hears it. And whatever restraint was left in him disappears entirely. He catches her at a broken window. Beats her badly. Pins her on the sofa. Wraps both hands around her throat. Cassie and Ben watch through a crack in the locked door. Then Cassie unlocks the door. Steps into the room. Raises the flare gun with both hands. And fires. The flare hits the man's center chest. He ignites. The cabin catches fire. Julia delivers one final kick, grabs the map and bag, and gets her children out through the smoke. On the dry seabed outside, Ben and Cassie drop beside their father's body. The 3 of them hold Tom one last time. The yacht explodes behind them in a fireball that takes the killer with it. 3 of them now. No boat. No home. No dad. They pick up their bags. And they start walking. The further they walk, the worse the world looks. A dead hammerhead shark frozen mid-motion in the cracked mud. Miles of plastic waste, rusted cargo, industrial debris that spent decades hidden on the ocean floor, now completely exposed. The sum total of everything humanity threw away and pretended it could not see. They are forced through a low basin of stagnant green pools, sulfur mixing with rotted sea matter, every breath burning their throats. Ben is fading. Cracked lips. Glazed eyes. Julia opens the water bottle, and it is empty. Cassie's pack had been slowly leaking since the attack on the yacht. A cap that was never fully closed. The argument that follows is one of the most human moments in this entire movie. 2 people completely broken by grief and fear, releasing everything onto each other because there is nowhere else for it to go. Cassie drops to her knees and says she does not think they are going to make it. Julia pulls her up. Does not apologize. Keeps walking. Hours later. A crashed commercial airplane, half buried in the mud, hull crusted with barnacles and salt. They clear it of birds and claim it for the night. Julia finds a family photo in Tom's jacket pocket. She holds it. Cassie asks, softly, the way she used to when she was small, how her parents fell in love. Julia smiles. Tom was once her patient. Broken leg. He spent 2 weeks telling terrible jokes just to keep her in the room. On the day he was discharged, he filled the nurse's station with flowers and read her the most awkward, honest little poem she had ever heard in her life. In the dark. Inside a crashed plane. On the floor of a dry ocean. The three of them laugh. Then deep in the night, Cassie steps outside for air. And the killer grabs her from the darkness. He survived the explosion. Burned. Scarred. Driven by something beyond reason. He tracked them across miles of mud to get here. Julia drops from above without hesitation. No fear this time. No panic. Just a mother who has already lost too much. She does not stop until he stops moving. She holds her daughter in the quiet after. And in the morning, they find his body covered in movement. They step closer. Small crabs crawl from his open mouth, pincers clicking rhythmically in the morning air. The deep-sea creatures have reached the surface. Contact with oxygen has mutated them into something that hunts. Something that feeds. On this seabed. Humans are no longer at the top. They push hard the next day. Ben nearly drinks from a toxic pool. Julia yanks him back. He is deteriorating, balance gone, eyes losing focus. They build a rough shelter and she injects him with the last emergency rehydration solution in the kit. They stop for the night. Before dawn, a sound wakes Julia. Low. Rhythmic. Like millions of tiny pieces of shell tapping against dry earth. She looks out from the shelter. A wall of mutated crabs, millions of them. Moves across the seabed like a living tide. Dark, clicking, consuming everything biological in their path. And it is heading directly toward them. She wakes the children. They run. A capsized cargo ship appears through the gray morning light. A sealed steel container on the hull. Light leaking through the seams. 3 crew members inside, alive, armed, watching. One woman wants to help. The 2 men with her slam the doors shut. Julia throws her children up onto the hull. As she climbs, a crab locks onto her calf with its pincer. She does not let go. Her children drag her up by her arms. The gunshots inside the container start a few seconds later. Then they stop. The sound that replaces them is worse. Julia passes out from blood loss. When she wakes, sandstorm. Everything orange. Her children are gone. She screams into the howling wind. And Cassie appears through the dust with Ben's hand in hers. They found shelter. They came back. Inside, out of the storm. Julia heats a metal pipe with Tom's lighter until it glows. Presses it onto her infected crab wound. Burns it shut. She makes no sound. Her children watch and do not look away. When the storm clears, they find an emergency locker. Water. A radio. A gun. For the first time since the yacht exploded, they have real tools. But the window to use them is closing faster than they know. Julia gets Nav on the radio. His voice is thin, strained, like a man speaking through pain. He tells her the mutated arthropods, the crab creatures, are ancient deep-sea organisms that the magnetic shift has driven to the surface. Contact with oxygen is transforming them at a genetic level. They are getting more aggressive. More numerous. Every hour. Then he tells her the other thing. The poles are snapping back faster than any model predicted. The wall of returning ocean has already broken its boundary on the far side of the world. It is moving now. At supersonic speed. They do not have days. They have hours. Nav crawls to the submarine's exterior deck, and fires a massive military flare high into the atmosphere. Miles away, Julia, Cassie, and Ben look up and see it, brilliant green, burning in the gray sky like the last star in the universe. That light is their only direction now. They shoulder their bags. Drink the last of the water. And walk toward it. After everything their bodies have been through, they walk. The submarine appears in a rocky valley in the distance. But between them and it, a narrow canyon cutting through walls of unstable tectonic rock, formations the magnetic shift pushed up from beneath the earth. They enter carefully. The ground starts shaking. Rock slide. Instant. Catastrophic. Julia shoves Cassie and Ben forward with everything she has left, and a boulder the size of a building crashes down directly behind her children. A solid wall of rock. Between Julia and her kids. She finds a crack in the stone and tells them, "Go. Now." Cassie refuses. They argue through a gap in the rock with the ground still moving under their feet. Every second they spend here is a second closer to the water coming back. Julia makes her daughter swear, on everything, to protect her brother. And she commands her to run. Cassie turns away. Takes Ben's hand. And runs. At the submarine, Nav is collapsed on the outer deck. Internal injuries from the quake. He tells them in a voice barely above a whisper that he is not going to survive. He urges them inside. Cassie looks at the open hatch. Looks at her little brother. And turns back around. She goes back for her mother. At the rock wall, the swarm has found Julia. She fires into the black tide until the gun runs empty. She looks up. A hand reaches down from the top of the boulder. Cassie scaled the wall from the other side. Julia grabs her daughter's hand. Cassie pulls. They run through the shaking valley together. Ben fires a scavenged rifle from the submarine deck to hold the swarm back. Julia and Cassie reach the hatch. Julia fires the last rounds, throws the empty gun into the closing wave of claws, and seals the hatch shut from the inside. Outside, thousands of mutated crabs tear at the steel hull with their pincers. The sound is unlike anything. Then, the earth goes quiet. 4 seconds of perfect, terrifying silence. And then the sound begins. Low at first. Like the memory of thunder. Then building. Then a roar so deep and total that it stops being a sound and becomes a physical force pressing through the steel walls. The ocean is coming home. Inside the capsule, Julia, Cassie, and Ben buckle in. Reach across the narrow gaps between seats. Hold hands. Look at each other. The wave hits. The submarine is torn from the ground and thrown into absolute chaos. Steel groans. Rivets scream. The G-force is total. Everything goes dark. Julia opens her eyes first. The submarine is still. She looks left. Looks right. Cassie and Ben are already awake. They open the hatch together and step into morning light. The ocean has carried them miles inland and set them down in the middle of what was once a great city. Buildings rise half-drowned above the flat water. Streets run somewhere deep below the surface. No voices. No signals. No other life visible in any direction. Everything they built their lives around, gone. Tom, gone. Their world, gone. But the three of them are standing here. Breathing. Together. And as long as there is breath, there is still a reason to keep going. Hey. If you made it this far, you already know this one hit different. If this story stayed with you, if you felt something during any part of it, do one thing before you leave. Subscribe. Turn the bell on. 2 seconds. That is all. And drop a comment answering this. Nav gave up his seat so this family could live. If that was you. Stranded, injured, 3 seats, and a mother and her 2 kids showed up at your door. What do you actually do? Be honest. See you in the next one.